Hello, everyone. I'm Zach. I am 13 years old and I live in Florida, USA. I've been known my entire life as a stutterer since the age of 5. I've lived my entire life knowing I had to stutter. And at the time, I did not care at all. And I just had no feeling like stuttering was just normal for me. And in the first grade, I can vividly remember being taken out of school early on Mondays to do therapy. I enjoyed it a lot as a kid, yet got zero out of it. I got nothing. I later moved schools and got a new therapist in 5th grade. I was a new kid in a new school who couldn't speak without going st. I can remember begging not to be picked to read or give a presentation, because when either of those happen, I'd go into full shutdown mode. I'd be forced to read a section from a book to the entire class listening. A stutterer's worst nightmare, you could say. I, after blocking and stuttering through the entire section, the teacher would gratefully hand it off to someone else. I did notice I got shorter sections to read than everyone else, but I was grateful that my classmates were quite kind. Therapist I had in 5th grade told me to elongate your words. So when I spoke, it sounded as if I couldn't speak at all still. And another thing I was always told is you must live with this issue. And this is what everyone's always told. No fix at all. You're a stutterer. Deal with it. We'll try, but you'll always be a stutterer. I just brushed it aside since it didn't bother me at all at the time. I do remember a word I'd always struggle on saying was a friend's name, Chris. Chris was a friend I had and still have of saying the speech. I back then never got his attention because I'd always say Chris and had a block. And I define a block as not being able to say a word and having the awkward period of silence. My stuttering had its ups and downs over a year. In June, it got worse, or in December, it was better, or it flip flopped. I don't understand why, and I thought it was just how life was. That's who I am, a stutterer. But no matter what, there is always these weird sounds I'd always stutter on. It was T's, D's, CH's, or anything with that general sound. Over the summer of 5th grade, the wonderful year of my life, I read Lee's wonderful book. At the time, my father, which is over next to me, forced me to read it. And at such a young age of 11, I understood very little, but I did get the crutches, yet I never used them. Why did I never use them? I don't know. But at the time, I still just didn't care about stuttering. That's probably why I took not much away from the book. I deeply regret that wasted time. At the time, I never noticed what a huge impact it had on my life. In the 6th grade, all my teachers said this one quote: Zach rarely participates in class. This was, well, true. And I had this idea in my head of, what if my answer was wrong? What if I stuttered? What if I had a block, just an awkward block, and the entire class just laugh at me? So I rarely ever asked questions in class or said anything. My class participation was quite meager. And then a big thing, my attitude. My attitude was quite insufficient. I was literally going to fail school for not speaking in class. Even though my grades were stellar, my contribution was lacking. My speech was a downfall as a student. Is this how life ought to be? No, it doesn't. Midway through the 6th grade, my father signed me up for WSSA, originally called SAC. WSSA had all the books lessons on their website in the form of videos taught by Coach Lee himself. I found the crutches helpful, yet still didn't use them. Big mistake. I deeply, deeply regret waiting so long to use the crutches. I watched all the videos on the website though, and I felt I understood what I had to do to stop stuttering forever. And then my father had this bright idea after some time. What if we start Skype lessons with Coach Lee? I, after hearing that news, was deathly afraid for some unknown reason. I had this extreme anxiety going into my first lesson. I was all tense and nervous before the meeting, and I felt I could just throw up from all the anxiety. A stutterer's worst nightmare, speaking to someone they've never met. But as we talked, I began to feel comfortable, and I found it was easy to speak to Coach Lee. Over the lesson, Lee told me to read some songs with passion and slowly. Lee also told me 2 things to end stuttering forever, destroying stuttering. Coach Lee's 13 crutches are probably what saved me. Without them, I'd still be a stuttering wreck. The crutch I tend to use most was crutch 10, linking my sentences. I could easily flow through a sentence just like that. That helped me so much. I was also enlightened about mind training. This fixed my attitude issue. And my favorite affirmation of all my affirmations is calm floods my body. This happens to be what I said right before this speech. Additionally, I say this right before a huge test. This works, and it's one of my favorite things to do to help my speech. Coach Lee also suggested reading aloud, and I started reading up to 3 hours a day over my summer break. When school started, that number dwindled, but I still read aloud any of my schoolwork or emails, and as of now, I'm reading a personal book for school. Maybe after about 10-ish Skype lessons, I began to stop stuttering. I felt a sense of normality. I was like any other 7th grader at my school, talkative and friendly. After my journey through stuttering, I personally think I've learned more life lessons from Coach Lee than I'd ever expect. An example of what Lee has told me is that when he started law school, he was behind the other students. because everything that was learned in school was partially forgotten. This is why Lee has always told me to give it my all, no matter what. If it's a speech like this, a test, even just a work assignment, give it my all, always. I really believe that stuttering is a bad habit that can be eliminated. Stuttering can be destroyed and stopped, and you don't have to suffer through it like the other 70 million stutterers who believe that it's a curse. I honestly found it a blessing. Frankly, if a 13-year-old was able to stop it, why shouldn't a 30-year-old be able to stop it as well? Since I started mind training, my outlook on life has improved immensely. Before, I used to be quite depressed and sad, and I'm pretty sure the virus only made it 10 times worse. Now I'm exuberant and ready to do anything. Mind training has truly changed my life for the better. I do my affirmations twice a day after I work out, and before I go to bed. After I stop stuttering, I set my eyes on new goals. Some include learning to love to speak. Others are speaking more in class. My own goal is to become more outwards to people. Also, maybe just to slow down, since it's like my generation of students and kids just won't take a breath. They're constantly blah, 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 and they just keep on going. And I just am like, just slow down, please. If I could go back in time to my 10, 11-year-old self, I'd tell myself this: never believe stuttering is unsolvable, and use the crutches. And lastly, mind training. Without any of those, I'd never overcome stuttering. One of the last things I wish to mention in this speech is WSSA. I'm not sponsored by them, I swear, but I will say WSSA has helped me destroy stuttering. Without their over 1,000 video lessons, I'd still be stuttering. And lastly, I wish to thank everyone at this meeting with me. I would still be a stuttering wreck without you all. I'd probably have speech anxiety, and I'd be terrified to be on stage. But now, look where I am. I'm on stage giving this entire talk to over 23 people. I feel like I could speak to anyone now. I would also love to thank Coach Lee. Without you, I'd still be at square one. I would have never, ever gotten to be so fluent with my speech. I would still be stuttering and downright a horrible and miserable person. Everything you've done has helped me immensely, and I'm so grateful that you're willing to spend countless hours of personalized attention with anyone, including me. And after this long speech road and journey, I can officially say I'm stutter free.